it's been proven time and time again that if we scale back oil and gas subsidies, we can improve air quality, we can generate more revenue for the industry as a whole, the energy industry, by taking some of that oil and gas incentives and putting it into the world we live in. And we know that also, most importantly, energy costs to consumers would go down by reducing incentives for oil and gas and increasing them for the renewable and storage industries, because we know that generating energy through renewable means and being able to store it is more economical for us all as consumers. Undermining American energy. Dan, we've shifted from unleashing American energy to it feels like we need to be recording a podcast every day right now, because the markets are crazy. The rules of the game seem to be changing by the day. We seem to be in this really awkward shift from truly embracing energy sovereignty, security, affordability, and sustainability to now pure turbulence and undermining a lot of great work that's being done. And so I know there's some new news in the IRA and tax world, and let's unpack that today. But before we do, how are you? What's going on?
Great to be catching up again, Gareth. I agree. The news cycle is quite extreme. I do appreciate a fellow podcaster, Jigger Shaw, mentioning that he likes to take at least 10 days before he reacts to the news cycle because of how frequently things can actually change, which is probably not a bad strategy. I've been doing great. As you know, we just returned from spring break out in Chicago with a ton of family. It was a tremendous trip. Growing up in a really small family and now being a part of a massive family is pretty awesome for me. And also just got to do a bunch of fun things with the boys. One of the highlights was taking them to the Shed Aquarium, which is an incredible aquarium. And interestingly enough, they've got a pretty sizable solar array there. Got to meet the CFO and spend a little time with him chatting through their energy strategy. So got to be a little bit of an energy nerd amongst all the fish.
That's so good. Love that. I'm calling in today from Utah. It's spring break week, but it's also Ethan's birthday this week. Trying to take advantage of a bit of time away from the craziness. But what it's actually highlighted for me, which has been super cool, is we've spoken on the podcast a few times about how good the energy electric vehicle EV charging infrastructure has been up until now, but it turns out we're in a complete EV charging desert. We are surrounded by zero infrastructure, and it's made the holiday a bit more of a logistical challenge, but it's been fun figuring it out. A lot of dropping a car off at a charger and going for a long run to get back to the house, and then running back to pick it up the next day because it's charged up on a 5 to 10 kilowatt charger versus the 250 to 350 chargers on the freeways. So it's been really interesting to see the small town America infrastructure challenges and why it's not as straightforward maybe as it is when we're on the cities and on the freeways. But it's been cool to experience. And we did an off-road trip the other day, and we were super nervous about the range. It turns out actually the electric truck loves being off-road because you're going slow, you're not sort of blasting on and off. And so we ended up with more range than what we expected. But these are all the trials and tribulations of figuring out new technology. It's been awesome, though.
I love that you're getting that experience and learning and taking the family on the journey with you. So exactly. Let's dig in. I'll just give a brief kind of rundown on some of the recent events, and then we'll really be digging in on a recent act that was introduced. So on Saturday, April 5th, the budget reconciliation bill passed the Senate after having passed through the House, and it was really no mention of impacting the energy tax credits, or at least the solar and wind investment tax credits or production tax credits. And so really what I want to briefly touch on is that the 48E tax credits is really what we're talking about here. This is the replacement for the Section 48 tax credits that just basically, as we moved into 2025, took over. And a few notable points here is that these investment tax credits, or the 48E Clean Electricity Investment Tax Credit, is a technology neutral credit for investments in clean electricity generating facilities, which also includes energy storage. Like I said, it replaces the Section 48 that phased out for new investments after 2024. The tax credits available to a wide range of taxpayers, including tax-exempt organizations, states, political subdivisions, businesses, and again, the keynote here is certainly solar and wind I'd say are more of the prominent ones that folks think of, but energy storage is absolutely included. Another noteworthy piece of it is that the tax credit is calculated initially at 6%, but as long as you meet prevailing wages and registered apprenticeship requirements, you get the 30%. So we always assume, because all the reputable EPCs and developers out there will meet those. But then you also get some bonuses. So there's the domestic content bonus that has a requirement for steel and iron and other components of these systems being produced here in the U.S. It's at a percentage point, and then energy community tax credit bonuses. We'll come back to those in a minute and why those are important to this discussion. But fast forward a couple days, Thursday, April 10th, a bill called the Ending Intermittent Energy Subsidies Act was introduced, and this was introduced by Congresswoman Julie Fedorchak from North Dakota, and co-sponsored by Energy and Commerce Republicans Gary Palmer from Alabama, Randy Weber from Texas, and Craig Goldman from Texas. And I'll take a quote from their press release. They said, "Wind and solar are no longer emerging technologies. They're mature, market-proven, and widely deployed." This is from Fedorchak. By continuing to incentivize these intermittent resources through generous tax credits, we're distorting energy markets and sending an absolute wrong signal to investors. As all grid operators are saying, we need more dispatchable resources. We must stop providing generous incentives that run contrary to that. You'll touch on in a little bit about what's going on in the oil and gas industry from a tax credit perspective, but I do want to come back to the fact that the 48E tax credit is technology neutral, and when we think about dispatchability, there's nothing that's more economical than solar with battery energy storage. And so when we're in a time of in this case, the name of it and the commentary around it is focusing on intermittent, or more so wanting more dispatchable resources, the 48E helps us get there. So it's unclear on how the bonuses will be handled, especially the domestic content bonus. I think that's one that is really emphasizing more production of these technologies and this equipment here in the United States. But really, I think the core of it is that it'll phase out these tax credits. So the tax credits won't go away entirely, but they would phase out basically a 20% reduction each year for 5 years following the passage of this, or in the taxable year following the passage of this. So an act like this does have to get voted on by the House before it goes to the Senate, and that's just by a simple majority. So, Gareth, how does this compare to what we're seeing in the oil and gas tax credit space?
Yeah, I think by contrast, Dan, there's a lot of money at stake here, but the oil and gas industry's obviously benefited from tax credits and other incentives for decades. And in 2023, the IMF said that the oil and gas industry globally secured $7 trillion worth of tax credits and incentives. And this was, there's always a push and there's a counterbalance, but the oil and gas industry are massive lobbyists, obviously. They're well-versed in this. There's lots of opportunities for them here in the US. They've got like the intangible drilling cost deductions where they can deduct almost all of their costs of drilling new wells. And instead of capitalizing them over time, they've got percentage depletion allowances, which allows them to deduct fixed percentages of revenue instead of and it allows them to double dip on tax credits. They've got domestic manufacturing deduction credits. They've got foreign tax credit loopholes. It goes on and on and on. And they're just the ones in the US. Then there's obviously support more globally. And so I think candidly, what this is showing is energy in general, whether it be oil, gas, coal, it's always been incentivized, and it's to support industries to build momentum and deliver affordable, reliable outcomes for customers. And I think that's where the IRA was super powerful. And it's been proven time and time again that if we scale back oil and gas subsidies, we can improve air quality, we can generate more revenue for the industry as a whole, the energy industry, by taking some of that oil and gas incentives and putting it into the worlds we live in. And we know that also, most importantly, energy costs to consumers would go down by reducing incentives for oil and gas and increasing them for the renewable and storage industries, because we know that generating energy through renewable means and being able to store it is more economical for us all as consumers. But Dan, in terms of this scale down strategy, what does it actually mean? Because I actually quite like the proposal.
So I think the key here is that it's not a complete slashing of this tax credit altogether. It's really a phased step down, which amongst all the other chaos and kind of knee-jerk reactions that have happened over the last several months, I would agree with you that it's a bit refreshing to see something that is wanting to take an approach that allows the market to react to it and allows folks that are looking to build these systems to prioritize this and understand the impacts of waiting and have a bit more urgency. So really what the proposed bill has outlined is a 20% step down each year following the year that it's passed. So let's assume that the bill is passed here in 2025. The first year that it will impact is 2026. So that would take us down to call it a 24% tax credit. From there in 2027, we'd be at 19.2, down to 15.3 in 2028, and down to 12.3 in 2029, and then all the way down to 0 in 2030. And so what this does is it creates urgency for folks that if they want to take advantage of this to really start deploying projects. Because if the IRS guidance falls true with previous step downs before the Inflation Reduction Act, you really needed to either have the project built or be making meaningful progress and have committed at least 5% of the funds of the project towards it in that taxable year to take advantage of that tax credit. So I think really when we think about planning a rollout of on-site energy projects across a portfolio of facilities, and we think about phasing that out in the coming years, we'll take those and take these tax credit reductions into account, and that'll help inform where projects get prioritized or not. I think the other thing, and we don't need to go into too much detail, but on our previous episode, we talked about the impacts of the tariffs, so the equipment tariffs, but also if the investment tax credit went away altogether. And I'd say the piece there is that if it goes away altogether overnight, that is a big impact to project economics. But the thing that this phase out does give me confidence in is we know that the costs of equipment is coming down. We know that grid electricity costs are coming up. And so therefore, over the course of 5 years, we actually may not see a ton of impact. Now, if the tax credit remained at 30%, we'd see, stronger and stronger and stronger business cases, but it might be a case where we actually see a wash and business cases remain relatively constant, or frankly, they're probably going to continue to increase, just not at the same pace because of the rise in electricity rates. So I think that does give me confidence, and who knows, we've still got to see how this all plays out in the House, and then it's got to go to the Senate before becoming in place. But I do agree it's not as brutal of a proposal as it could have been.
I actually really like it, Dan. I think we talked about in the last episode, there's 3 major scenarios, isn't there? It remains as is. You have the step down approach, or it gets killed altogether. I think in terms of the 3, I actually really like where this is heading because, to your point, it actually drives the right behaviors. If we continue to incentivize industries indefinitely, then it doesn't drive efficiencies, it doesn't drive innovation, it doesn't prompt people to act. And I think we run into this a lot under the current model when people believe that there's 30 to 50% plus tax credits and they're going to be around forever. The question is always, well, why don't we just wait one more year and let equipment prices come down a bit more, or energy prices go up a bit more? But it's almost false economics at that point, because energy prices are increasing far more than some of the other benefits, and being able to lock in your energy cost today versus riding that wave of uncertainty and the rising energy costs in a volatile way. So if you know that these things are stepping down, and it'll prompt you to act, and it'll prompt the good projects to be deployed very quickly, and then the bad projects will be deprioritized, and the average projects will come good when they come good. And I think, to your point before, that's really the power of our approach, is know when to build these as well as what to build.
Yeah, no doubt. So we'll keep everyone posted as more news comes out. But we're constantly monitoring, and if anybody has any questions on any of this or how this potentially impacts their projects, we'd be more than happy to take a quick review. And that's the beauty of this extremely dynamic market, more so now than ever over the last couple months, and we not looking like it's going to slow down anytime soon. So it's important to optimize and re-optimize the projects to make sure that you're getting the highest value system. So Gareth, enjoy the rest of the time in Utah. Happy birthday to E, and we'll catch everyone on the next episode.
Sounds great. Cheers, Dan.
We receive a lot of questions from business leaders around the world wanting to learn more about the energy transition, what is possible, and where to start. So to help you stay informed and up to date on best practices, opportunities, risks, and success stories, we created an industry newsfeed at VECKTA.com/news with all our podcasts, blogs, and newsletter. Check it out and connect with Dan, myself, and the VECKTA team to learn more. Cheers and have a good one.